The evidence clearly indicates that modern man is not the result of a process of linear evolution, but rather a cyclical creation process, intelligently supervised and controlled by beings of a superior mind. Our alien gods came from a distant planet of the galaxy in the distant past. They came to Earth, seeded life here and created modern man. They intruded man and science and created a civilized world. Civilization after civilization arose, the old and the new world. One day we left, and came to be worshipped as gods. They promised to return. And they will see. The ancient Egyptians used electricity we created. We came from space. Man has always dreamed of space. The planets and stars have fascinated mankind throughout history. If our space shuttles could someday in the future take us beyond our solar system, could we not travel to see and admire the beauty of the alien worlds? Probably we would try to create a human colony on one of these alien planets. Genetic engineering in antiquity. Extraterrestrials with superior knowledge of science and engineering landed on Earth thousands of years, created us and shared some of his experience with the early civilizations. Why is it so hard for some to consider objectively the possibility that our planet was visited in the distant past by space travelers from another corner of the galaxy? Since the universe is home to a large number of intelligent beings, it is logical to assume that the Earth could easily have been visited by several exotic species in prehistory. They came to this planet, created mankind, and fighting battles existed between themselves and other exotic species. He instructed man in sciences such as astronomy, mathematics, metallurgy and agriculture and many others. These divine beings restored life on our planet after each cataclysm. His knowledge was so vast and so huge and eventually powers, people began treating these extraterrestrial visitors as gods. See. The ancient astronauts were mistaken for gods by our ancestors. Those who are not very familiar with the theory of ancient astronauts often ask, is there any evidence of alien visitation in ancient times? The answer is yes. In fact, our star gods left clues for us scattered all over the planet. All we need do is examine the evidence. It is disappointing that the scientific establishment is extremely set in their doctrines. New discoveries and alternative theories, which contradict and exert pressure on concepts already well established, are by no means welcome. That is the greatest for all of us, who seek the truth behind human origins and identity of our star gods problem. Dangerous discoveries, which threaten the orthodox line of history, are called fakes, or are simply hidden from the public. Despite recent scientific progress in several areas, sometimes it seems like we never really left the dark ages behind us. The alien gods were genetic engineers. One of our greatest advances in recent years has occurred in the area of genetic engineering. Today we human beings are masters of genetic engineering, and can produce clones that breathe, think and act like us. Whether this action is ethical or not has been widely debated. Surveys clearly show that most people are definitely against genetic manipulation, but is not the main issue at this time. Significant is the fact that we have shown that human beings are able to create new life. This conclusion automatically brings us to another very interesting and highly controversial question. If humans can produce new forms of life, could the entire human race be a product of genetic intervention performed by highly advanced extraterrestrial beings? Our ancestors used to say, the gods came from heaven and created mankind. There are hundreds of creation myths around the world. All people talk about the stars, who came to this planet and seeded life in the distant past. How could the alien gods produce modern man? Genetic engineering in antiquity. DNA, the tree of life? Our DNA is the key to the mystery of the origin of mankind. The gods of the stars could have created the Homo sapiens, as they were excellent scientists and possessed knowledge not only in the area of space flight, astronomy, agriculture, architecture, medicine, but also genetic engineering. We must not forget that alien genetic engineering offers a solution for highly focused change in human DNA and explanation of the sudden appearance of Homo sapiens. The alien gods manipulated and improved existing animal species. This resulted in the creation of the first primitive forms of humanity that preceded our own. Primitive life forms as the Neanderthals, Homo erectus, and the Cro-Magnon were in principle alien genetic experiments. Our planet played the role of a genetic laboratory for aliens, who were active here in the past. According to several of the former sacred texts, myths and legends, the alien gods attempted several times to create intelligent beings. Our extraterrestrial gods created a number of human races during different time periods. Genetic engineering in antiquity, Sphinx with human head. A representation that often decorate ancient temples. Is this a result of genetic experiments, extraterrestrial gods? Some of these races were the giants, found in the sacred books and mythology worldwide. The Nephilim mentioned in the Bible were, for example, a genetic creation of the fallen angels, a group of spacemen who rebelled against their leader, Lord. Some of the genetically engineered creatures possessed the extraordinary wisdom of the gods and long life. It was almost as powerful as the gods themselves. Several mythological stories often speak of immortal gods. In the eyes of humans, an extremely long longevity of the gods could easily be interpreted as a sign of immortality. We must not forget that human races created previously lived long modern man of today. A classic example of this enduring humanity can be found in the Bible. Adam, the first man, is said to have lived 930 years. Seth, the second patriarch, obtained an age of 912 years. Enosh lived years 905. Canaan became 910s. Mahalalel lived 895 years. Jared 962 years. Enoch had only 365 years. When Yahweh took Methuselah was 969 years. Lamech lived 777 years. The hero who escaped the great flood, Noah, lived 950 years. The Popol Vuh, the sacred book of the Kishmaya, tells a story of alien gods who descended from heaven and, as the Bible says, man was created in his image. However, the creation of mankind was not a one-time process, but rather a continuous process, repeated several times during a long period. Genetic engineering in antiquity. Since the dawn and dawn approaching, due to sustain and nourish us. How do we do to be invoked, to be remembered on earth? We have already tried with our first works, our first creatures, but could not bring us to be praised and worshipped by them. So let us try to make some respectful, obedient beings that sustain us and feed. So they said. Popol Vuh, the Mayan tradition about the creation of man. The story of creation is described in detail in the Popol Vuh. They show that modern man was the result of genetic intervention by our extraterrestrial creators. The Popol Vuh says that being created had no parents. Is the first human being was perhaps a test tube baby? There are many fascinating old records worldwide, offering an insight into the true identity of the ancient gods and the messages they left behind for future generations. A challenge to orthodox science. Of course, it would be naive to assert that aliens were responsible for the creation of humanity, if we only rely on this theory based on ancient myths of creation. The creation myths of our ancestors are only important in the fascinating puzzle that reveals the truth about human origins and our connection to the cosmos. Peace. Abnormal results show clearly that the human past is much more controversial than the one presented in the historical books. It is a fact that there are a number of obvious flaws in the theory of evolution. This problem theory raises more questions now than ever. It is well known that evolution has proven to be a very slow process. It has taken species millions of years to evolve, and in the case of modern man, it took only a few thousand years before they could an advanced intellectual level. The theory of evolution does not explain the increased human cranial capacity, nor do they explain the strange fossils of anatomically modern man. They have been unearthed around the world. These fossils date back to periods when it is said that prehistoric animals have dominated the planet. There is evidence to show that people similar to us lived from 55 million years ago. Yes, humans and coexisted. Dinosaurs. What about the skeletons of giants, which have been unearthed in various parts of the world? Found human skeletons, 17 meters high, dating back at least 300,000 years. Why human remains, which were obviously huge in size, have been discovered if such persons are said to have never existed? Why have so many authorities secretly decided to rebury giant skeletons along with artifacts discovered? If these challenging archaeological discoveries are suppressed and never hidden, we will learn the true history of our origin. The Bible mentions men of gigantic stature who had 6 fingers on his hands and feet. Then there was another war in Gath, where was a man of great stature who had 6 fingers on each hand and 12 feet, 24 in all, and was also the sons of Anak. 2 Sam 21:20. Genetic engineering in antiquity. A giant discovered in County Antrim, Ireland. Its height was 12 feet 2 inches, chest circumference 6 feet 6 inches, and the length of arms 4 feet 6 inches. There are 6 toes on his right foot. Many of the giants have discovered an extra finger on hand and foot. It is a common feature of the giants. The Irish giant's skeleton was in exhibitions in Dublin, Liverpool and Manchester. What then happened to the giant and its owner is unknown. Photography. British Strand Magazine in December 1895. Genetic engineering in antiquity. Human servants attended giant Anunnaki Nephilim. The Sumerian scribes referred to the gods as the Anunnaki, in which, they say, came from Nibiru to judge rule the inhabitants of Earth. Some interpret Nibiru as a distant planet, while others say the real translation is, those who from heaven to earth came. There are a number of archaeological discoveries that the traditional model of human prehistory are adjusted. These results should not be ignored and systematically hidden from public view. The skeletons of humans and giants of millions of years we have discovered worldwide are remains of men who lived in one of the past, described in the myths of the natives. According to Mayan scholars, the Aztecs, the Incas, the Hopi, Hindu beliefs, traditions, Hebrew, Greek mythology and other ancient texts and cultures, different races have lived for past or cycles in the world. Each of recent times have ended because of a cataclysm. The gods of space later recreated humanity and restored life on Earth. The evidence clearly indicates that the creation of modern man is not the result of a process of linear evolution, but rather a process of cyclical creation, intelligently supervised and controlled by beings of superior mind, our alien star gods.